Yes lads, what is going on? Welcome back to another Sorare video. If you're new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, and if you do enjoy the video, please always do give it a like. If you are completely new to Sorare and you are yet to sign up, there will be a link in the description of this video that will get you some free market credits once you've purchased your first 5 cards on the auctions. Now, today we're going to talk through my plans for this upcoming European season on Sorare. Yeah, it's a massive transition, shall we say, from what we've had in the previous years through playing Sorare and previous seasons. This is like the first time we're going to have like an actual in-season and classic version of competitions where you can pre-order cards, apparently, hopefully in the next month or so, in preparation for August. And yeah, there's just a whole bunch of things happening. There's going to be apparently no All-Star. Cap modes are going as well. Well, they might come back as special weeklies and featured now and again, but there won't be any cap 240, apparently 270 and 220. And yeah, All-Star looks to be going as well. So yeah, we're basically stuck with challenger, contender, champions, and then you've got under 23. So those are basically the 4 places you can play your cards. Depending on what scarcity you want to do that in, but yeah, those are effectively the competitions. Within Champion, we do have a Premier League native comp, we do have a Bundesliga native comp, and a La Liga comp as well. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of places to play your cards, don't get me wrong, especially for Champion cards. There's lots of, variations in what you can do there. For Challenger and Contender, though, there's no like MLS only competition. There's no, Jupiler League competition only. So, all the cards from those leagues, Portuguese League, Belgium League, Eredivisie, Danish League, and of course the MLS will all be coupled together. So, yeah, Champion definitely is probably the place to be as far as, utility for your cards. And then Contenders and Challengers are kind of left to fend for themselves. So I'm going to talk you through how I'm looking for this upcoming season. I like to see my cards visually. Obviously, we can see them in our gallery, but it's nice to be able to play around with them on here. And yeah, you can kind of just move them around. I've just screenshotted the cards effectively, from Sorare. So yeah, not that intricate, but it did take me a little while to get this up and running. And yeah, I'm going to sort of run you through my main plans, where I'm going to be playing my cards next season, or where I'm hoping to be playing those cards. What competitions am I going to be entering, and what competitions am I not going to be entering, and the reasons for that, and maybe, where I need to strengthen within those competitions I want to play. So leave a like if you enjoy the video, lads, and yeah, let's just get straight into things. So first up then, my bread and butter. The reason I fell in love with playing Sorare, I think, is playing the under-23 competition. Now, the big thing, or the big change that's coming to under-23 for next season, or in August, is that you can play 3 lineups there. Right now, and you've only ever been able to play 1 lineup per scarcity. We did have Rare Pro for a little while, so you could play under 23 Rare, you could play under 23 Rare Pro. Obviously, 2 Super Rares in there with 3 Rares. And yeah, obviously that's gone now. Rare Pro hasn't been a thing for a few months. And yeah, we're left with, 1 lineup per scarcity. But in August, we are able to play 3. So this is, how I'm looking for under 23 Super Rare next season. All of these guys are under 23, going into next season and beyond. And as you can see, I'm probably a little bit short at goalkeeper. Toblason's been great since getting a #1 spot in the Jupiler League in Belgium. He's been number 2 to Martin van der Voort at Genk for a long time. He ended up leaving to Leuven and was amazing for them. Like, really, really good. Saved them probably from relegation, to be honest. And yeah, I'm in a situation where I have a lot of outfielders, as you can see, and I only have 1 goalkeeper. Now, if I'm able to play 3 lineups in this competition, it would be pretty nice. The issue is, under 23 starting goalkeepers are very expensive. So I do have a situation where, yeah, either I'm going to have to just fork out a lot of money on an under 23 or another under 23 goalkeeper to have 2, to play 2 Super Rare lineups. Of course, we will be able to win Essence. You can win, reward boxes, etc. from under 23. There won't be any in-season under 23. I think that's one thing we need to point out. That's like the only competition out of those 4 that I mentioned at the start: Contender, Champions, Challengers, and under 23. Under 23 won't have an in-season version, which, I understand why, and whatever. But yeah, it's just going to be classic. So you can play 3 classic lineups per scarcity. And yeah, I'm in a situation where I do have a lot of depth. Now, not every one of these players are in a good situation in that, like, they're going to be starting every game. They're going to be pulling in really big scores. I'm not going to go in depth on every single player, but like, I look at my defense there and I go, okay, we don't really know what's going on with Owen Beck. Nico Williams plays in the Premier League and doesn't score that well on a consistent basis. El Karaoni's probably the most consistent player, to be honest. His scores are okay. They're nothing like elite in that sense. Balki fell off the face of the earth for a little bit towards the end of the season. He is a good scorer, though, if he is fit. He had like a weird injury. I don't really know what went on there. Santiago Ramos Mingo plays in the Argentinian league. Actually, probably the best scorer, in that defensive column, if we're being honest. But he does play in Argentina, and, the fixtures don't align greatly with the European season. But, they do for the start. So, that's fine. There is definitely a few defenders there I can use. Lucas Piton, another one in the Brazilian league right now. Tanguy Nianzou, I just don't know what is going on with him right now at Sevilla. Apparently he wants to leave. Benoit Badiashile, again, at Chelsea. Lots of competition at centre-back. George Campbell has the odd good game for Montreal. Pim Sahoff plays for Go Ahead Eagles. Well, I say play. He's in the squad. He doesn't really play. I won him as a reward a long time ago. And Roon was relegated with UPenn. So UPenn are now in the second league in Belgium. So yeah, no utility from him unless he moves. And the same for Casper Whittle. He did get relegated with Excelsior. Hoping he finds a move, though, into a covered league, because he is actually a decent player. So yeah, I'm looking there. I go Santiago Ramos Mingo's, quite locked in. El Karaoni locked in. Piton locked in. There's 3 there realistically. And, if I am wanting to play 2 lineups here, I'm going to probably need a little bit more depth than that, if I'm being honest. And don't get me wrong, Owen Beck could find a really good spot if he, isn't a bench player at Liverpool. There's definitely things that could change there. But I do think I need a little bit more strength, or at least an elite player there, basically, which is easier said than done. In midfield, honestly, I think I'm pretty set in midfield. Yari Sharon, if he's fully fit, can be a really good scorer. Quinton Timber's been great. Yuito Suzuki, the same. Arakai on his day as well in the J-League, very good. Connor Barron just moved to Rangers, so that is a good move for him, hopefully. Julian Bass just moved to Sparta Rotterdam, very good move for him. Frankie Ameyer's moving to Mexico, which is a weird one. But because he's still under 23, I am probably going to keep him, because I'll get into it, but I'm not going to be playing Contender Super Rare. But I will probably keep hold of him just because of that. Moran, if he finds a nice little loan move, maybe in the champ again. Serrano, if he's fit. Araujo's a decent player, actually, for Orlando. So I have a little bit more strength and a little bit more eliteness to my midfielders, I would say, compared to defenders. And then moving to forwards. Honestly, forwards were my weakness for a long, long time. But I do think I have improved there quality-wise. Balikwisha probably being the biggest addition there over these last few months. Getting him in, hopefully, I don't want him to move from Antwerp, but probably will move. I just hope it's a favourable move. Dalinga and Johnson, 2 champion, under 23 forwards who I'm not going to use them in champion because I'm not playing champion Super Rare. So they will be my go-tos for under 23, and they're still under 23 for next season. Isaac Davis going back to Cardiff. Hopefully gets some championship games under his belt there. He was really good at Kortrijk last season in the Belgium League. Adson is a Brazilian league player, not bad on his day. Avston's been really good in the MLS. Yorbe's playing for Union Berlin. Again, comes in and out of the team. Sam Greenwood's at Leeds after his failed loan move, I would say, probably at Middlesbrough. Yunus Agun is back at Galatasaray, I believe. I don't know his situation exactly. And then Sanjay Hansen, who's actually not a bad forward for NEC, who's able to score really well on a certain day. So, overall, I'm happy with my outfielders. Like I said, could I improve my defenders? Absolutely. I think the biggest thing here for me is, do I really want to play 2 lineups per week? The answer is obviously yes, but what would have to happen in that time for me to do that? And that means obviously getting an under 23 goalkeeper in, which is not easy. So I definitely have a decision to make there. Do I fork out the money that would be required to get another under 23 goalie in to play 2 lineups there? Because you've got to think essence and all that sort of stuff. If I'm going to be, constantly winning, or hopefully constantly winning, essence from under 23 Super Rare, if I have 2 lineups, then that's, double the chance of winning more essence, more boxes, more cards, of course. So, yeah, I say it's double. It's not exactly double because the quality of the second team is not going to be as good as the first team, but you kind of get my point. We do get divisions as well for under 23 next season, so that's another thing to keep an eye on. So, yeah, I don't know whether, if I did have 2 teams, would they both be good enough for Division 1? Probably not. Maybe one Division 1, one Division 2. So, we'll see how that transpires, but I definitely have, one good lineup probably for under 23 Super Rare every week for next season. And I'm definitely happy with that, but 2 lineups would be a bit more optimal, I think. Moving into Challenger Super Rare. So this is the only other Super Rare competition I'm looking to play. So I'm not going to be playing Contenders and I'm not going to be playing Champions. We'll get into that, but it's basically because I have no goalkeepers from, those competitions. So as you can see, I technically right now have 4 starting goalkeepers from Challenger. Kaminski got relegated with Luton. Gaten Kook is actually leaving Mechelen in the Belgium league, so I don't actually know where he's going to end up. He could end up being a contender boy, and I might have to sell him. But right now, let's just argue he's going to get another job in Belgium, but that might be very far from the truth. Leo Jardim plays in Brazil, and then obviously, we mentioned Toblason already. So let's just call it 3 goalkeepers without Kook for now, which, the maximum amount of classic Super A lineups I can put out in Challenger is 3. Obviously, I have 4 goalkeepers. Layson will probably be used in under 23 over Challenger most weeks. So defenders, as you can see, just from a pure number standpoint, is just a little bit less populated. Bruno Fuchs plays in Brazil. Verdonk is apparently moving from NEC. Hopefully he stays in Challenger. We've got El Karauni there. Campbell, Piton, and Balki are all under 23. Teze being the only player that I own that was under 23, and he is moving, into not being under 23. So hopefully he stays at PSV. I could have, an elite player there, an elite defender from PSV, hopefully, to continue next season. Him, Verdonk, Fuchs, there's some good players there, don't get me wrong. I do think if I am going to be putting out 3 lineups, though, I do need a few more Challenger Super A defenders. So any suggestions, lads, leave them down in the comments. Midfield, Santiago Rodriguez has been immense so far this season in the MLS. So that is a fun one. Obviously, when the MLS finishes and Europe continues, he won't be available to me unless he moves, I guess, to Europe. Florentino Luis, we don't know what's going to go on with him, but he is aging out of under 23 as well. We've got Timber in there, Suzuki, Yari, Cesar Araujo, Julian Bass are all under 23 like we've already looked at. And then, David Turnbull actually ages out as well of under 23. He's at Cardiff right now. Went for a big fee. Hasn't really shown yet what he's capable of like he kind of did at Celtic in glimpses. So I'm hoping he comes good. Maro Jr. is probably the one I'm most excited about. Pairing him with Teze. Probably is going to play as a left back, in real life. But he is a midfielder card. And hopefully, hopefully gets the starting gig because Dest is out with an ACL injury right now. And then, Dimitri Payet right now. I bought him a few weeks ago for my Brazilian stack. And, he's been injured ever since. Shock. Hopefully he becomes good in that time. And then Mateus Chonier, who's at Montreal right now. But he is at the Copa America with Canada. So, I think there's a lot of quality in that midfield. Again, if I'm putting out 3 lineups, most of the time I am going to be going with probably 2 midfielders at a time, if we're talking midfielder and extra position. And so, I do need at least 6, good midfielders. And do I have 6 there? Timber, Flo, Santi, Maro Jr., Yuito Suzuki, Yari, and then, Bass, Araujo. I'd probably argue there's 6 there. 6 usable cards on a given game week. So I'm in an okay position there, I think, in midfield. At forwards, Kubo plays for Cincinnati right now. Not really a forward, but I do have his forward card. He pops up with, decisives now and again. He's not terrible. He's not amazing. Definitely not elite by any stretch of the imagination. And then Magnus Matsson's probably the only elite forward I have, I would say. Has just moved to Copenhagen over the last couple of months and has done really well there, takes set pieces. He's like my main forward. If I have a Division 1 lineup going into next season for challengers, he's going to be in there 100% as my starting forward, as long as he's fit, of course. And then the rest of the guys are all under 23. So I'm in a position there where, let's say I do have 2 under 23 Super A lineups and I use Balikwisha maybe or Sondre Hansen or whoever, that then dilutes my challenger forwards, obviously. So I am probably in the market for 1 or 2 forwards from Challenger. Don't necessarily have to be under 23. Because then that makes my life easier than knowing that, I definitely can't play them in under 23. So they're definitely a forward in Challenger for me, like Mattson or Kubo. So there's definitely a bit of, bit of work to do in Challengers, I think. Maybe 1 or 2 defenders and maybe 1 or 2 forwards, I would say, if I want to be, really secure in having 3 teams every game week. Or the possibility to have 3. So that's kind of where I'm at for challengers. And then these are kind of the leftover Super Rares that I have in my gallery that either have a weird situation where we don't know where they're going to end up, or they're either champion or contender players that I'm not going to use. So for example, Emmanuel Reynoso moved from Minnesota to Tijuana, I believe, in the Mexican League. They are in contender, and so I'm not really going to be able to use him. And I'm in a situation where, I'm probably going to look to try and trade a lot of these guys off There is some, like Chris Mepper maybe might move to Celtic. If he moves to Celtic, he's probably an elite defender for them if he starts, and that could be a nice little bit of hype to sell into. Adrian Pereira is under 23 for now, but does move out of under 23 eligibility in June, and he plays for Rosenborg, and obviously they're contender. So yeah, there's a few cards here that I'm not really going to have much use out of, and yeah, that obviously means I'm going to have to try and trade them or sell them for challenger cards. I do have quite a few interesting forwards that are going to need to be moved on. Taremi, I won him as a tier 3, I think, from Cap 240 super rare not too long ago. Of course, moving to Inter. If he was staying at Porto, he would be perfect for me, but he's not. Some nice international utility from him. Stravetsa is at Como, and they got promoted from Serie B to Serie A, so he is now a champion forward, as is Giovanni Simeone, bit of a bench boy at Napoli, but might move elsewhere. Akida actually plays every game, to be fair, for Shonan in the J-League. I've had him for years. He is also moving out of under 23. Kamal Roof's an interesting one. I paid like 25 quid for him. There's only like 5 cards on the whole game. At Super Rare level, there's not many mints of him at all, apart from his Anderlecht mints. And hopefully he gets an EFL move. Hopefully he moves to the Championship somewhere. We know he's a proven goal scorer there. And I probably do end up keeping hold of him. And hopefully he moves, like I said, into Challenger. But there's no guarantees there, of course. And then Dario Spitic plays for Dynamo. Again, I don't really know what's going to go on with him. But Dynamo Zagreb, of course, are in contender. So I definitely have a few cards that I would like to get rid of. And get them swapped into, Challenger cards effectively. From, the super rare side of things in my gallery. I'm in a situation where, like, at least the majority of my super rares are usable. As in, like, they're in places where I want them to be. They're in either Challenger or they're in under 23. And that's, not a bad position to be in. It could be a lot worse. I could have to, like, completely change up the dynamics of my gallery. The reason I did have those contender boys, actually, I'll just kind of let you know, is I did have a bit of a super rare Russian defensive stack. So I had Leszczuk and Balbuena from Dynamo Moscow. As a starting keeper in Russia, and of course a defender to go with a few of these cards for the last season. But yeah, I've sold them, and yeah, now I'm in a situation where I have a few contender outfielders, I have a few champion outfielders that just aren't going to be used, and so yeah, that's kind of why I need to get them gone. So if you're interested in any of them, lads, please do let me know in the comments. And then as far as my rare guys go, I'm looking to play champion rare next season. I'm looking to play under 23 rare, of course, and then I am looking to play challenger rare. Again, I do have contender cards right now, like I have a Uara stack in the J-League. I have like a 5% collection bonus on them and whatever, but right now my feelings are that I really just want to play challenger under 23 and champion, like kind of emulate what I'm doing at super rare, apart from the champion side of things. So I don't have any interest in playing champion super rare next season. I definitely just don't have the budget to do it, lads, if I'm being honest. So, champion rare, as you can see, looks very bleak right now, and that is because it is for the most part. I have a few defender choices: Ruben Diaz, Lewis Dunk, Van Hecke, Simakan, Zinchenko, Christensen, Benjamin Henriks. Recently won him as a tier 4 from the Eurocomp, and so yeah, champion for me is more of like a goal to work towards as far as my rare gallery goes. Like I have one, legit midfielder that might not even be legit if he doesn't like nail down a really good spot at Bayer Leverkusen. It looks like Aliash Garcia is going to move from Girona, where he was great. He was nailed, he played every game, but he's moving to Leverkusen, which could turn out great. Don't get me wrong. I hope it does, of course. And I do have a few fringe midfielders that I haven't actually listed here. A few like Ivan Gil that's moving from La Liga 2 to La Liga 1. Monchu as well got promoted with Valladolid. So I do have like filler midfielders that I could put in here. But like I kind of just wanted to display like the guys that like on paper I could really trust going into next season. I have a few forwards I can trust. Juan, Saganikov and Luis Diaz if he doesn't move. Or if he does move, it doesn't really matter. If he moves to Barcelona, of course, obviously I can't play him in the Prem comp. I could play him in the Liga comp, for example. But yeah, I'm in a situation where it looks like I'm going to have 2 goalkeepers. So Velez is going to Betis and Labrovic is going to Augsburg. So I have a decision to make in that I don't have a I do have a Prem keeper, which we'll get into. But he's going to be playing in under 23 most of the time for me, I think. So technically I have 3 goalkeepers. Let me just kind of preface that. So Bart Verbruggen is over here in the under 23 category. And I'll tell you why he's over there and not here for now. But, on paper, I have 3 goalkeepers. One from the Prem, one from the Bundesliga, and one from La Liga. Which is not a bad position to be in, because those are the 3 competitions or the 3 leagues that have their own competition next season on Sorare outside of Champions, if that makes sense. So I could play all these cards in Champion, but I could also play, for example, Aliash Garcia in the Bundesliga comp, or, Labrovic in the Bundesliga comp, because he is playing for Augsburg. So I'm in a situation where I don't know exactly what I want to do for next season. Do I want to play, 2 lineups, one in La Liga, one in Bundesliga? And if that's the case, then I'm definitely going to need some La Liga midfielders, for example. And right now, 2 of my forwards are Premier League forwards. So my best defender is probably Ruben Diaz, who, again, Premier League. So I'm in a situation where I just want to just bulk out my champion options. I don't really mind what league they're from right now, as long as they're playing in Champions next season. As you can see, midfielder is where I'm weakest, if we're talking like nailed on really good midfielder. So I definitely need to improve there. I'm kind of happy with the defense. I think I can probably get by with that defense. Maybe 1 or 2 additions if we're being really picky. I definitely need 2 or 3, maybe even 4 midfielders to add into Aliash Garcia to kind of bulk out there. And then maybe forwards as well, maybe 1 or 2 forwards. So I'm in a situation where I have 7 defenders, 5 or 6 mids, and 5 or 6 forwards is probably where I want to be, with the option of playing 3 champion lineups with Bart, which we'll of course get into. But champion for me is like a goal to work towards. Like, it's definitely not the finished sort of article in any way as far as the strength goes. And yeah, any wins or any card wins or any sort of trades I can do that are going to turn into champ cards, great. Like, that's kind of where I'm trying to bulk out the majority of my rare cards right now. Moving into under 23 then, like I said, you can play 3 under 23 lineups going into next season, and I do have a lot of depth here. Like, don't get me wrong, I do. Under 23 has been my bread and butter since the dawn of time on Sorare, if I'm being honest, and it's where I've had the most success. I think I've won under 23 Rare Pro like 6 or 7 times. It's kind of been where I've got the majority of my wins from. I won Vinny Jr. for first place, for example. I won Jesus Ferreira for 10th place. Mateus Tell I won from that comp as well. Savio the same. Pedri. I've won a lot of my under 23 guys, like the good ones, from being relatively successful in that under 23 Rare Pro comp, which is of course not with us anymore. Being able to play, or the goal is to play 3 under 23 rare comps next season, and this is kind of how I'm going into it. We've got Bart Verbruggen, obviously Chris Brady is an MLS keeper, but definitely under 23. Bazunu's done his Achilles, so he's now a champ keeper technically, but I don't know what's gonna, his recovery is going to be a long time. He's not going to be ready for August, so you can kind of disregard him right now. Like, he needs to be replaced in some capacity. Erdem Kampelat got relegated with Pendixbor, and so yeah, his situation is a bit up in the air as well. I'm hoping he finds a starting spot, which means he can be an under 23 keeper for me next season, because his eligibility runs until 2025. So really hoping he can be another addition, because we're going to need 3 starters every game week effectively, right there. We've got Bart, we've got Chris Brady for the MLS. Bart's not going to start in August. Kampelat, as of right now, isn't going to start in August. And Will Dennis, who was on loan at Kilmarnock for the last couple of seasons, on loan from Bournemouth. So technically a champ keeper as well, but I don't think he's going to be the number 1 at Bournemouth next season. So hoping he gets some sort of move that allows him to play regular football. So if we're being brutally honest, I have 1 European starting goalkeeper going into under 23 rare next season. Now, it is a good thing that under 23 keepers, or keepers in general, have come down in price a lot. Like, they used to be stupidly expensive. Now, Bart is still very expensive in relation to other goalkeepers, but he plays for the Netherlands and whatever, right? There's definitely a lot of upside in him. But, you can get, average under 23 keepers for £100 these days, which wasn't possible a few years ago. So I definitely am in the market to bring in a few under 23 keepers if Kampelat's situation stays the same, if Will Dennis's situation stays the same. I definitely need 3 goalkeepers going into every game week, to be honest, because I really want to be, I really want to prioritize under 23 again. That was my bread and butter. That's where I had the most fun and success on this game. And, the changes to Sorare's gameplay has kind of forced my hand to not be that way, not be an under 23 gallery predominantly. But I do kind of want to get back to my roots and kind of do that basically. So defenders, pretty solid. I'm not going to go through every player here, but, I have a decent amount of defenders there. I probably have 8 or so starters every game week, depending on, what happens to them in the transfer window, like Mika Marmol, for example. There's a few there that could move. Sikwe, the same. So there's a few situations I'll need to keep an eye on. And you could argue, yeah, you could probably add 1 or 2 defenders to that I kind of know are going to be in good situations next year. And this is my midfield. So again, a good amount of quality, if I'm being honest. Zaire Emery, Pedri, Tony Fruk if he stays at Riker, Szoboszlai, Gio Reyna if he can get his act together at Dortmund. Leighton Clarkson wasn't great last year, but had a really good year before that. Jankovic, Busio being promoted with Venezia. Bershoff could break through at Hoffenheim. We've got Enzo Fernandez, hopefully. Pablo Torre might get a favourable loan from Barcelona. And Oscar Gluck. There's like a lot of quality in midfield. I'm not really too worried about my midfield options, if I'm being honest. If I win some good options, great, I'll keep them. But I'm not looking to necessarily strengthen there by like actually trading or buying players. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. And then the forwards. We have a lot of champ forwards, realistically. Rodrigo, Vinny, Brennan, Sulemana now technically with Southampton being promoted. Savio, Elanga and Matheus Tel. They're all champ forwards, which are not a bad thing because I can play them in champ, of course, if I want to or need to. So in a way, looking at that now, it's kind of reminding me that I probably need to go out and find some like contender under 23 gems, basically, because realistically, the contender and challenger under 23 cards that play are going to be less expensive on average than champion cards or champion under 23 cards that play, because you can, of course, play them in Champion. You can play them in La Liga comps, Prem comps. There's just more utility for those cards. And, for the most part, they have less risk if we're talking like really bad transfers. So, yeah, I am in a situation where I do want to pick up some under 23 forwards from either Challenger or Contender. Because, like I said, I'm not playing Contender Rare, or I'm not planning on playing Contender Rare next season. So those will be like native under 23 cards. It doesn't matter that they could play in Contender. They're just going to play in under 23. And so that kind of makes my thought process of picking players and teams and lineups a little bit more straightforward sometimes. Whereas, the Rodrigos and Vinnies of the world, I'm always going to have that dilemma of, do I play them in Champ this week because they have a great fixture, or Real Madrid have a great fixture, or do I play them in under 23, right? Which, again, is good from a utility standpoint, but from a making a mistake standpoint sometimes, and prioritizing maybe the wrong division, those are where mistakes can be made. So definitely need to strengthen up forward and specifically contender forwards, I think. Because I think I could get a few in for a decent price. They would just be like my mainstays in under 23. So yeah, the goal is to have 3 under 23 lineups going out every week next year for Rare. Like I said, for Super Rare, 2's the goal, but 1 is probably realistic. And yeah, I definitely need a few goalkeepers. It's probably 2 new goalkeepers, 2 new defenders, and maybe 2 new forwards, I would say. If I really want to be super strong or strong enough to compete in under 23 across 3 lineups. Because I think, with the Essence, going back to the Essence talk situation, if I want to build out, some of these Essence capsules for under 23, I want to be winning or trying to win or attempting to win as many Essence as I can. And the way to do that is to play multiple lineups from the same competition. And so that's kind of why I want to play, 3 under 23 lineups. So that's the goal for under 23. And then lastly, going into Challenger Rare, which is mainly dominated by MLS. Realistically, I'm a big MLS fan. I love watching the MLS and I love owning cards from the MLS. And as you can see, I have a ton of goalkeepers from Challenger, but not all of them are starters. Don't be fooled by that. I just brought in Coronel because I thought he was going to be the Paraguay goalkeeper, and it turns out he's been dropped. So yeah, not ideal from a Copa America standpoint, but I was always, wanting to buy him from a New York Red Bull standpoint, because I do have quite a few New York Red Bull cards. So yeah, Carlos Coronel, starter. Stefan Fry, starter. I don't know what's going on at DC. Bono was the starter, and now Tyler Miller's played 2 out of 2. So I don't know what's going on there, but let's argue there's 1 starter between those 2. Sean Johnson is a starter, but he's at the Copa America. Diogo Costa is a starter, but we don't know what is going to go on with him post Euros. Does he move to champion potentially? Who knows? So right now, I've got 1, 2 between those 2, 3, 4 MLS keepers, 5 if you count Chris Brady. And then I have a couple of backup keepers. So Mikjovic is the backup to McCarthy at LA Galaxy. He plays now and again. He is under 23 actually as well. But yeah, you can't really count on him. Claudio Ramos is the number 2 to Diogo Costa. So if Costa moves, maybe Claudio Ramos turns into, a fully fledged starter at Porto. I know he just signed a new contract, so potentially. Yannick Thoylen was the backup to Gaetan Cook Kook's now leaving. So, again, there is definitely a few situations there in or with my goalkeepers that, are ever changing basically. But I do have at least 4 starting goalkeepers there from the MLS, which, basically is all about targeting in-season comps for me right now. As you can see, a lot of my cards, a lot of the outfielders are in-season. And so, I have been trying to win some cash through the in-season challenger comps with my MLS guys. It hasn't really been going to plan. I think I finished like 63rd last weekend. I scored 420 points, which is a lot of points. And I didn't manage to hit any reward. That was in Division 1, and we know it's very competitive over there. But I just brought in Andrade. I've got Reagan, so I have like a double Seattle defensive stack if needed. John Tolkien to pair with Coronel, of course. I had Wendell to pair with Costa. So I had like a Porto, New York Red Bull, Seattle, and Mechelen defensive stacks, and DC technically. I do have Aaron Herrera and Tubbs to go with Bono and Miller. So I have my defensive stacks relatively set for the MLS at least. For August, MLS still will be ongoing in August, so I will be able to play in-season from August onwards. So I'm not really looking to pick up any new in-season challenger cards from Europe per se, because I have that covered, from the MLS until that finishes. So I'm in a good position with my res in challenger, I think. My MLS guys have been great, like Acosta, Rusnak, Lewis Morgan, Maxi Marias is kind of back now, Forsberg. I have I have a lot of depth there. I have 2 Rusnaks, 1 old season, 1 new. And then I have a few, Euro cards. I've got 2 Sven Koomses for the new Belgium season. Marabi's not a bad card as well for Mechelen. So, my Euro side of Challenger isn't like incredible. Like there's not a ton of depth, but I'm kind of masking it with the amount of MLS guys I have and hoping those can get me over the line when it comes to August. I have Pepe, Dries Mertens. I have quite a few good forwards actually from the European side of Challenger to go with, the MLS guys. Overall, I probably need a couple of defenders from Europe, realistically, because Wendell might move to Juventus. There's definitely a few ever-changing situations there. Midfield, if Sven Kooms is like a starter again at Ghent, which I'm hoping he is, I think he's, should be enough, especially having 2 of him. I think he should be enough to be able to play like at least 3 classic lineups and maybe like 1 or 2 in-season lineups is kind of the goal for August, with the MLS guys, of course. If I didn't have any MLS guys for Challenger, I would not be able to play multiple lineups, as you can see by, my goalkeeper situations. If Bazunu was fit, then, it would make it a little bit easier, but, it's not the case. So, definitely a few defenders from Europe and definitely a few midfielders. Well, maybe 1 or 2 mids at a push and maybe a forward or 2. Mertens is obviously getting on a bit, but he is going to play another year at Galatasaray. Pepe could easily move to Champion. He was great last year for Porto. So, again, the transfer window does screw us over on Sorare a lot of the times. And, like, if a lot of these cards move to Contender, well, I'm in a situation where I just have to sell those cards, right? Like, I don't want to play Contender. And so, there's definitely a few things that could change. But overall, this is kind of what I'm working with. Challenger Rare, Under 23 Rare, and Champion Rare are the goals for next season at Rare level. And then at Super Rare level, it's Under 23 Super Rare and Challenger Super Rare. Of course, you can play down a scarcity. That's another thing I haven't mentioned. So if I don't use any of these super rares or they're left over, for example, I could use them in rare. That's something that definitely needs to be talked about. And another thing that we don't actually have any information on yet, but we don't know yet if we can play down a scarcity in under 23. So can you play super rares in rare and limited? Can you play rares in limited? That would, change things for me a lot. Knowing that I do have, a lot of surplus in under 23 super rare. And if the case is that you can play super rares in rare, then I might be in a situation where I don't need to buy, any outfielders for under 23 rare if I can play my super rares there. So that is something that we do need clarity on. I don't think that has been announced by Sorare yet. Maybe they don't even know yet. Who knows? But that's kind of where I'm at, lads. I don't want to play Contender. I don't have the depth. I don't have the core there already in my gallery, and I don't want to kind of start that now. I'm of the opinion that, like, I want to double down where I'm already strong, because that's for me where you're gonna get most success next season. It's gonna be, in Classic, it's gonna be so competitive across the board. There's gonna be so many lineups in Classic, per division. It's competitive now. I think it's going to double as far as competitiveness goes, going into next season, because all the in-season cards from last season are going to turn into Classic cards, of course, and they're going to be, played in Classic. So, that's kind of where I'm at. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I'm making any glaringly obvious mistakes. Let me know what you think about the strategy. Is this something that you're interested in yourself? Are you looking to do this within other scarcities, or or are you already doing it? Let me know what your thoughts are for next season and how you're planning on sort of tackling the new Sorare that starts in August, which I'm excited about. Like, it's going to be fun. I'm really excited for it. It's forcing me to maneuver my gallery in ways that maybe I didn't want to do in some capacity. But yeah, I don't mind it. Change is good. I think we needed it, or we definitely needed it. The game was getting stale in many ways, as far as like people were just farming cap 240 thresholds. And yeah, I'm not saying I didn't do that myself. Everyone had their go at it, right? But as far as how the game works, it just wasn't sustainable. So yeah, let me know what you think, lads, on the strategy. Let me know your strategies as well. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts. I hope you have a great day. I probably will make an updated version of this video maybe in a month or so time to see where I'm at, see if I've managed to conquer all my goals as far as, incomings and outgoings. I'll let you know how it all goes, lads. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and I shall see you guys in the next one.